Hey, One Mediator Media here again, coming to you once more. So we got lots of stuff going on in the world. We got riots. We got Michael Moore saying some things that he's worried about. We got the death of the Supreme Court Justice. And what's next? Well, stay tuned and let's mediate.
It's not a matter of faith, it's just a question of time when we all fall down.
That if you have violent demonstrations, yes, we will put it down very, very quickly if there is. Absolutely.
Are you making fun?
And I think the American public wants to see that.
So guys, remember this is happening on the 17th. Wait, today's the 19th. It already passed. No, it didn't happen. Let's talk about why. So here's an article by Adbusters. And so it talks about a group organizing the Lafayette meeting said it was canceled due to violent threats. Violent threats from who? On September 11th, D.C. General Assembly announced that it would be organizing Occupy's White House siege event. Now, this was supposed to happen on the 17th, and was lots of talk about it all over the place, and apparently it did not happen. And the reason it didn't happen is, it says the group then tweeted on September 17th, noting that a general meeting at Lafayette Square was not happening and tagged Adbusters in the tweet. Adbusters retweeted the notice. So when we look at this tweet, it says, "Happy birthday, Occupy. It is with a heavy heart that we announce the cancellation of today's General Assembly. We simply cannot justify risking anyone's safety, the right to assemble and speak freely under heavy direct attack. Pound Occupy Trump at Adbusters at the real Donald Trump." Ultimately, that's what happened. They planned this event. It got a lot of people moving. And ultimately, they canceled it because I guess Trump was going to come after them. According to Vanity Fair, during a conference call with U.S. Attorney last week, Barr reportedly said that protests across the country could get worse in the run-up to the November election and encouraged the attorney to seek a number of federal charges, including under a rarely used sedition law, even when state charges could apply. And so this is a big part of what happened here, why they did not show up. I'm thinking they're probably waiting. They probably didn't want to waste it ahead of time. That's just my guess. I don't know. But at the same time, when you have federal charges pending that you could possibly get charged with for possibly sit in jail for a very long time, it probably was a major reason as to why they decided not to go through with it. So our next story here, Michael Moore has come out and said a few things. Let's see what he has to say real quick.
So they're afraid. They start with fear of the Trump voter. They can't get yard signs. They're calling me, "You have any contacts? Can you get us yard signs?" I said, "I can't believe this is happening again." Now, yard signs may seem like a simple thing to people, but it says a lot because you're driving up and down the roads in Michigan and you see Trump sign after Trump sign, Trump flags, Trump banners, people driving around their pickup trucks with Trump flags. It's everywhere. That's
kind of the gist of what's going on with Michael Moore right now. He's really concerned. A Fox News report says Michael Moore sounds alarm on Biden's campaign in Michigan. It's actually worse than Hillary's. And so Michael Moore is very concerned right now. We go back to that article here. So that interview with Rising came out. And so then it says down here on Daily News, it says Oscar-winning director Michael Moore sees Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump shrinking in the Wolverine state, and it's making him sicko. The fact that Trump has narrowed the lead by 50% since June should have everybody screaming bloody murder, said Moore, who correctly predicted a Trump win in 2016. The Detroit Free Press, whose polling Moore referenced, noted Thursday that indeed Biden led Trump by 16% in June, 11% in July, and only 8% now. However, Trump's support remains at 40%. Recent Rasmussen report said that it's getting much closer. There's something going on here. The polling tends to be a little off, so something to be mindful of. We'll see what happens. A lot of people are concerned right now, it looks like. In other news, we have Iran's Revolutionary Guard commander vows to hit on all involved in U.S. killing of top general Qasem Soleimani. And so this is one that Trump has touted frequently, Soleimani that we took out. Now he's essentially making threats, this guard commander. And so what does that mean? He's going to attack people who are involved. What does that mean? We'll see. I'm not really sure what that means. They tend to make threats. They made threats in the past, but we'll see. It's an interesting year. 2020 is not over. Let's keep our guard up and watch for this. It says the commander of the IRGC will hit the people who directly and indirectly played a role in the martyrdom of the great man Soleimani. The IRGC commander Hossein Salami, said in a ceremony addressing military commanders and staff at Tasnim news agency reported Sunday. Soleimani, former commander of the Quds force, was killed in a U.S. drone strike approved by President Donald Trump on January 3rd. So I wonder if they're waiting for the election as well as to what they're going to decide to do, if they do anything at all. Like I said, they've done this before in terms of threaten, but, times are getting interesting, so we'll see. Package addressed to Donald Trump containing poison ricin intercepted by law enforcement. There's a report on this. This is by The Independent, and it talks about a package addressed to President Donald Trump containing the poison ricin has been intercepted by law enforcement, according to report. Mail addressed to the White House is sorted and screened off-site. The FBI and Secret Service are investigating the matter and are trying to determine if other packages were sent through the postal system. An official has said that investigators believe the package may have come from Canada. New York Times report. So there's a lot of stuff happening between Canada and the U.S. This is like the third report where I've seen Canada somehow involved in something going on in terms of whether it's rhetoric, whether it's calling for some type of a attack or revolution. I'm not sure what's going on with Canada right now. It's interesting. Let's keep an eye on Canada and guard ourselves because they're our next door neighbor. So let's watch out there. So there's a few scandals going on right now. So we have Romney says Biden probe not legitimate role of government. So Biden, his son Hunter was involved in some things, and let's find out what those were. So it says here, Republican Senator Mitt Romney is sharply criticizing an investigation by his own party into Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's son, saying it's not the legitimate role of the government to try and damage political opponents. Okay, so Romney is arguing the point because there are some people that are saying that Biden's position was used in this situation for personal gain. It says there's no evidence of wrongdoing by the Bidens, and Hunter Biden has denied using his influence with his father to aid Burisma. In a statement, Joe Biden spokesman Andrew Bates called the investigation disgraceful. Again, they're saying it didn't happen. I don't know. Republicans coming to Trump's defense during and last year's impeachment trial have encouraged investigators of Hunter Biden's activities, questioning whether his highly paid job created a conflict of interest for Joe Biden. As the elder Biden worked on Ukraine policy in the Obama administration, Trump has frequently mentioned Hunter Biden's activities during his re-election campaign. It was the right timing for it. The right people were involved, and I could see the question here. Let it carry through. I mean, the timing is interesting as well in terms of when it's happening. Like I said, a lot of scandals. Here's the next one. Another scandal going on. We have a FBI director confirms very active Russian efforts to interfere in the election. So they're saying the Russians are involved again, not as much as they were before, but that they are involved in this election again. So it says FBI Director Chris Wray on Thursday told Congress the Bureau has seen very active efforts by Russians to influence our election in 2020, primarily to denigrate Vice President Biden and what the Russians see as kind of an anti-Russian establishment. So under Biden, I guess we're not too happy about that if Biden were to come in. The efforts have been through proxies on social media and have aimed to sow divisiveness and discord. And so it says, unlike in 2016, the Russians have not targeted election infrastructure. So ultimately, I guess they're using different methods online to try to influence people, but they're not truly disturbing anything else in terms of election infrastructure. My stance is ultimately, I think we should be mindful of what we read, be mindful of what we see, know that we're being lied to from all directions, whether it's Russia, here, or elsewhere, China, you name it. We're being manipulated all over the place. And so if we come into it with that mind state and understand that we have to read through everything and understand everything through the lens that you are probably being manipulated in one way or another, rather than just believing everything you see and that somebody says, I think we'll be in a better position. We really need to trust independent journalism and not look at the CNNs and all these other things because, initially it almost seemed like a joke, fake news. But really, both sides are just putting out random stuff. It's really interesting what's happened to the news. And I'm curious because years ago, when I look back at the news and when it really wasn't questioned, let's think back to the 80s, back to these times where we actually trusted the news. I wonder how much we were lied to then. When you look back at the Iran-Contra deal, when you look at, what was going on in Kuwait, when you look at what ended up happening in with Vietnam, we can go as far back as that. When you look at all these situations and you now understand that there's always more to the picture, I'm curious. And even then, we kind of knew things were up. But now it really, you can see right through it at this point. Really interesting stuff going on. It continues here. It says FBI director called for trust in the electoral process, but says he fears people will take on a feeling of futility because of all the noise and confusion that generated, and that's a very hard problem to combat. So ultimately, think for yourself. That's what we're trying to say here. Republicans subpoena James Comey, Obama's intel chief James Clapper, over claims of abuse and spying powers during Obama's last days in office. Senate Republicans authorized subpoenas for several Obama administration intelligence officials. Names included former FBI Director James Comey, and we kind of went over that, part of the Senate's probe into origins of Russia probe. Senate Republicans are investigating how Operation Crossfire Hurricane, the probe into President Trump's 2016 campaign, started. So there's a lot of talk of the Russiagate and all these other things, and or Obamagate, I think is what they called it. So there's a lot of question as to what happened during that time, and they're actually pursuing it. It's moving forward here. I'm going to be interested in seeing what Comey says, in the days to come. It's going to be interesting. Again, these next 50 days are going to be very telling, and be ready to be lied to, be ready to be manipulated, be ready to look through everything, look at all sides. Some people just look at the left media, the liberal media. Some people look at just the conservative, far right media. Let's just kind of look at all the pieces, put that puzzle together, because ultimately there's agendas all over the place. Let's be open-minded, but like Groucho Marx used to say, not so open-minded that our brains fall out, right? And so in Portland, protests resume. 11 arrested in unlawful assembly, and ultimately, what I just wanted to bring up is it looks like they were saying that the fires are the reason that protests kind of calmed down in Portland for a little bit. Some were saying it could be because Trump came in and they deputized some of the people there, some of the officers, and so federal charges were being handed out. It's probably a combination. Some of these people, I mean, if the air was that bad, you probably shouldn't be outside. But also, I do think that when you apply consequence, people respond. It happened in D.C., it happened in different places, where once consequence is applied, we respond. I mean, that's just a human nature, right? If it burns, you don't touch it anymore. That's ultimately how it works. And so it continues here on protesting. Protesters outside McConnell's home use his own words to demand delay in filling Ginsburg's seat. And so here it just says a group of more than 100 protesters gathered outside Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's home Saturday in response to an announcement that the Kentucky legislator will push to quickly fill the U.S. Supreme Court. And so we're going to carry on into that story, but ultimately, protests all over the place. And I'm curious how quickly they find these people's homes. So the Seattle mayor, they got to her home. The mayor in Portland, they went to his home. McConnell, they went to his home within like days or hours. Nowadays with the internet, you can find pretty much anything. But to get together a group that quickly, to move that quickly, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of funding going on too. Something really interesting is going on here in terms of what's happening. And that's partially why it's not so much just a Democrat thing, not so much a Republican thing. There's a third party here moving forward and trying to also change things and manipulate things. Let's keep our eyes open here. So CDC drops on in Newsbreak. It's one of their stories. It's Associated Press. CDC drops controversial testing advice that caused backlash. And so the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention essentially returned to its previous testing guidance, getting rid of language posted last month that said people didn't need to get tested if they didn't feel sick. So initially they said if you don't feel sick, there's no reason to. Even if you've been around people, if you have no symptoms, then why get tested, right? Why waste these tests that we need for people who truly need them, right? People who truly have symptoms. It says CDC now says anyone who has been within 6 feet of an infected person or at least 15 minutes with that person should get a test. In a statement, the agency called the changes a clarification that was needed due to the significance of asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic transmission. They came out and said that it could be transmitted by somebody who had no symptoms. Then they came out and said that is not the case. That's not really the form of transmission. Now they're saying that it can. They also said that you really shouldn't get tested if you don't have symptoms. Now they're saying you must get tested if you meet this parameter of 6 feet away and so on and so forth. Ultimately, again, sowing confusion and purposefully, because it's not that they don't know these things. These are the experts in virology, right? They're the experts in disease. And so they've been studying this ultimately for centuries. Perhaps not to the level of sophistication that we have now, but they are the experts in this. And you're telling me that they don't know this already? There's a lot of mixed stuff in there. It is political. It does have to do with lying because they don't want us to take more than we should in terms of if we don't have enough PPE, if we don't have enough tests, well, then don't take them. Okay, now we have enough, so make sure you take them, and we got to cover ourselves from lawsuits as well. So we have to use our brains. It's just we can't trust these people completely. And so the next story here says Kim Kardashian. I'm going to talk a little bit about these celebrities. Kim Kardashian, this is from CNBC. Kim Kardashian West and other celebrities will boycott Instagram for one day to protest Facebook's failures. Okay. So it says more than a dozen celebrities, including Kim Kardashian West, Katy Perry, Michael B. Jordan, and Ashton Kutcher, said they will participate in a 24-hour Instagram freeze Wednesday. This is Wednesday, it's not Saturday. As part of the Stop Hate for Profit movement in protest of Facebook's repeated failures to address hate speech, so on and so forth. Nobody cares. Sorry, guys. I don't want to be rude. That's just not what I like to do. But really, celebrities, ultimately, right now, nobody really cares, especially when people are doing things that don't make sense. So it's been a few days. Nothing really came of it. And ultimately, I just wanted to cover some of what people were saying. Here's a few comments by some people. This is by Newsweek, who also commented on this report. It says, this is somebody by the name of How. I probably should cover the name there, but it says, you boycott a product, not an app. Boycotting Facebook or Instagram for 24 hours does absolutely nothing to the revenue stream. It only serves to draw more attention, the likes of Kardashian, which was probably their goal all along. These leftist celebrities don't care about the truth. They care about banning anything conservative. Not one of them has complained about the hate and lies in the media that the media has spread to promote rioting across the country. Oh, she is stupid. She is as okay. Anyway, so you get the point. People don't really care. I went through several comments, many things that people were saying. They all pretty much resonated the same thing. Ultimately, guys, they need to stop. Speaking of celebrities, so Cheer star Jerry Harris arrested on child pornography charges. Okay, what's interesting about this story is that he actually admitted to it. So it says Jerry Harris, the star of Netflix documentary series Cheer, was arrested Thursday and charged with producing child pornography. And so the issue with this story is that, according to the complaint, Harris admitted during an interview after FBI agents raided his home in the Chicago suburb of Naperville on Monday that he asked one of the teens to send him photographs and videos of, let's just say, body parts. This guy's admitting to this. I'm not going to go into the details, but this guy's admitting to this. He said further, Harris admitted to requesting and receiving on Snapchat child pornography from at least between 10 to 15 other individuals who he knew were minors, according to the complaint. This is sick. This is happening all over the place. We read of the Epsteins. We read of all these people that are involved in these things. We read of accusations of rape, accusations of just misconduct in general, child pornography, so on and so forth. And then we have this. There's something really wrong with Hollywood right now, really wrong with the celebrity situation going on right now. And it's not just right now, it's been going on for a long time. I mean, you look at different reports from different people who've come out, and said things. It's still kind of a hush-hush thing. And we're still waiting on the whole Epstein thing and Maxwell thing and see where that goes. But ultimately, there is something really wrong here. And we need to stop supporting these people. I'm sorry. Entertainment's not worth it. It's just not worth supporting this. And it's sick, and this guy, I'm not sure what happened with him. He's a young guy. I think he was 21 years of age. It's unfortunate, but he needs to essentially receive justice for what he's doing. This is wrong. And so our main story today, death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A lot of stuff going on around this. It says judges Amy Coney Barre, Barbara Lagoa, and Alison Jones Rushing are emerging as serious contenders to fill the seat on the Supreme Court vacated by the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, according to sources familiar with the process. Is it Barrett? Sits on the U.S. Court of Appeals for 7th Circuit and was a finalist for Trump's second court nomination, which ultimately went to Brett Kavanaugh. Republicans have hopes she could energize Latino voters. Okay, so we're now going to pull that race card again, right? So Latino voters. Okay, They will use blacks, Latinos, any way they can, right? They'll use everybody. Rushing sits on the U.S. Court of Appeals for 4th Circuit. She's a favorite of evangelical groups, an important part of Trump's base. Born in 1982, she would be in a position to serve for several decades. Interesting. We haven't had somebody serve for several decades like that for a while. I mean, I can't remember the last one. We did have one, but currently everybody's up in age. Amol Taper of Kentucky from 6th Circuit Court also is under consideration. He's championed by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. So people on the right are ecstatic. They came out with, responding right away in terms of, okay, this is our chance to get somebody else in there. People on the left are freaking out. Their heads are exploding. Why? Because we're looking at either keeping somebody super liberal, which is what she was, or we're looking at putting somebody who's conservative, very conservative. And so it's important. And in this case, I stand more on the conservative side, so I would be happy to see somebody who's going to, somebody who would not support abortion, somebody who would not support these things, because ultimately our country's gone very, very liberal lately, and so some balancer would be good in terms of having somebody in there who may be a little more conservative. Not many people will be happy about that, but we'll see what happens. And so in this one, it says Trump says he expects to announce his Supreme Court pick next week. So we could hear very soon, in terms of those three that we talked about, who he might be kind of looking at as a possibility. Though there is a fight to stop this, so it's not going to be that smooth. There's going to be some fight. SCOTUS battle prompts threats, calls for arson, burn Congress down. And this is what I'm talking about. So according to Fox News, there's already reports saying some verified Twitter users threatened arson and apparent violence. If they even try to replace RBG, which is Ginsburg, we burn the entire F thing down, right? Author Reza Aslan tweeted. He later responded to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's vow to hold a vote on President Trump's nominee over our dead bodies. Literally, he tweeted. Next one says a Canadian political science professor called for arson, prompting accusations he made a terrorist threat. Burn Congress down before letting Trump try to appoint anyone to SCOTUS. Waterloo professor Emmett McFarlane tweeted. Okay, and this is this guy here, and apparently he's from Canada. We talked about Canada earlier, and I'm not sure why he's meddling over here, but it says burn Congress down before letting Trump try to appoint anyone to SCOTUS. Interesting. So ultimately, if people don't get their way, they're going to burn everything down. I don't think that's right. I don't think we should be doing that. We had a legal process. In this situation, they're complaining, saying that during the Obama administration, who he would have appointed was stopped, and they wanted to prevent that, and now they want to push it through, which is almost the same situation, with Scalia and what happened there. And so there's always. Like I said, on both sides, there's always a double standard. It's unfortunate, in terms of what we see. But again, there's agendas all over the place. And but again, I personally would like to see a little more conservatism in there. But ultimately, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Thank you for coming. Thank you for checking it out. This is One Mediator Media. Check out One Mediator Cross-Examined coming soon. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share it, put it out there, and we'll see you guys next time to mediate. Bye.